Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? In the name of God, Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer, Amen. Try a tomato, Plato. Here's cacciatore, Dory. Taste the bologna, Tony. Everybody eats when they come to my house. I wonder if you have ever heard this song, first released by the Cab Calloway Orchestra in the mid-1940s. Written by a New Yorker, Gene Burns, it has a kind of silly surface playfulness. Oh, do have a knish, Nisha. Pass me the latke, Mackie. Chili con carne for Barney. Everybody eats when they come to my house. A silly surface playfulness. Underneath, though, the lyrics are portraying a kind of idealized America. Like Frank Sinatra singing, "That's America to me," released in these same years. Everybody Eats, sung by the African-American Calloway, and listing dishes from any number of recent immigrant groups, invokes an America where everyone has a seat at the table. Pasta fazoula, Tallulah? Oh, do have a bagel, Fagel. Now don't be so bashful, Nashville. Everybody eats when they come to my house. Not surprisingly, the America that produced this music was a far more complicated and less hospitable place than the lyrics portray. In The U.S. and the Holocaust, aired last fall on PBS and streaming now, filmmakers Ken Burns, Lynn Novick, and Sarah Botstein explore how our nation tightened laws against immigration beginning in the 1920s, and how the anti-Semitism of powerful nativist Americans such as Henry Ford and Charles Lindbergh created, through most of the 1930s, policies and a popular public mood opposed to Jewish immigration into America from Central and Eastern Europe. Our own State Department deliberately curtailed the issuing of visas at this time, visas that would have saved lives. Postpone and postpone and postpone, quote, was the official strategy of Assistant State Department Secretary Breckinridge Long. It is a fantastic commentary on the inhumanity of our times, wrote the courageous American journalist Dorothy Thompson, writing from Europe. It is a fantastic commentary on the inhumanity of our times, that for thousands and thousands of people, a piece of paper with a stamp on it was the difference between life and death. As Paul observes in his letter to the Romans, most of the terror and misery in our world is perfectly legal. The parents of one of Ken Burns' witnesses, Sarah Warsinger, did manage to secure asylum for Sarah, who was then aged 11. Asylum in America in 1941. Warsinger escaped Germany and, assisted by a children's aid organization, traveled with her brother from Lisbon to New York. Shortly after arrival, Sarah Warsinger, 11 years old, was given Wonder Bread to eat. I had never seen bread like that, she remembers. You could roll it into balls and throw it across the table. Warsinger's experience, the film reminds us, is exceptional. Otto Frank, the father of Anne Frank, was among hundreds of thousands who tried to secure safe passage for his family to New York. If federal policy had been different, perhaps his daughter would have gone on to write many books, would now be living out her final days in Sarasota or Phoenix. Have a banana, Hannah. Try the salami, Tommy. Get with the gravy, Davy. Everybody eats when they come to my house. In this morning's gospel, everybody's eating. Everybody's eating. And the tradition, even though the text doesn't spell this out, is that we are in the house of Matthew, the tax collector. Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? Ask the Pharisees. The disciples don't seem to rally much of a response here, but Jesus interjects. Some need me more than others, is the heart of his response, and then he quotes the prophet Hosea. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. Mercy, not sacrifice. Steadfast love, not performative burnt offerings. Matthew's gospel, beginning with the Beatitudes, in fact, returns to mercy constantly, as a quality Jesus is modeling and trying to call forth from his followers. What he means by mercy, though, isn't necessarily in sync with how we use that word today. The Greek word that our Bible translates as merciful means generous in doing deeds of deliverance. Generous in doing deeds of deliverance. In other words, mercy is about action, a generous action that delivers someone from need or bondage. So when Jesus walks down the road and someone calls out, "Have mercy on me," that person is not saying, "Jesus, let me off easy," or "Forgive me." What that person is saying is, "Deliver me from my affliction. Heal me. Feed me. Grant me a visa and safe passage into that land where my children and I are no longer in danger." The mercy with which Jesus wants us to live is both an outward act and an inward feeling. An outward act and an inward feeling. As our collect says this morning, it's about our thoughts and our actions. The laws governing our actions are necessary, but they are primarily concerned with our outward actions. That's where they fall short. Justice and mercy and faith are where the particular Pharisees we meet in the Gospels seem to be falling short. When Jesus responds to them in the tax collector's house, his response is that what God is asking of us is not so much activity directed Godward, but loving kindness directed out towards other people. That's why everybody eats when they come to Matthew's house. That's why Jesus allows suspect people to touch him, insists that the righteousness of some pagans that he encounters actually exceeds that of the Pharisees. For the whole world is mine, and all that is in it, says God through the psalmist this morning. The whole world. Everyone in it. Who are you to deny what is mine, says this God, to a brother or a sister in need? For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. When Jesus speaks to the righteous much deeper into the gospel in Jerusalem, just before his own betrayal and execution, he offers this list, which tradition has come to label the 6 corporal works of mercy. The actions, of course, the goodness of the actions are self-evident. Just as the goodness of our Food for Kids ministry, which turns 10 this year, The goodness of our free shop, which, as you may not know, turns 50 this year, the goodness is self-evident. The actions, the practical relief are clear. But here is something to think about in this week to come. What happens to you if you happen to be the one providing? If mercy is both outward act and inward feeling, what is happening to us inside? Is generosity simply doing our duty, behaving nobly, doing the much expected as one perhaps to whom much has been given? Or are you yourself being changed? Are you yourself being made new, transformed? One of the merciful, receiving a surprising and unbargained for mercy yourself through your own actions. As we are about to remember and to reenact together, everybody eats when they come to God's house. Together we affirm the ancient faith